Good morning. I realize it's almost afternoon where some of you guys are. And I'm a little late this morning, but that's because I'm in New Orleans. I'm not in Chicago today, so I didn't have my normal routine of taking my little one to school. But I didn't forget about y'all. And I know of all the days that I should be live, Monday is probably the best day just because it's the beginning of the week. And sometimes we just need something to help us set the tone. You know what I'm saying? So yesterday I was so caught up. We went out to Super Sunday to see the Mardi Gras Indians parade that I just didn't get a chance to post my weekly forecast graphic. So I missed out on kind of laying out what's happening this week for you guys. So I'm still gonna post that on Twitter once I get settled in to work today, but I still want to talk about what's going on. I touched on it a little bit last week at the end of the week, the last Instagram live I did, which I believe is up on YouTube. But hey, everybody. But the way that I understand the multiple narratives that are happening in our lives at any given time tend to do with configurations based on modality or element. So sometimes we can see planets lining up in one element like fire or air or earth or water. So for example, this weekend, right, with the moon in Cancer, we've had Sun in Pisces, moon in Cancer, and Jupiter in Scorpio, which has meant all four water signs have been occupied. And water signs are definitely about the body and our experiences of our body as an internal mechanism communicating with itself, as well as kind of an instrument that can communicate to us something that's going on outside of us, and how what's going on outside of us affects kind of the internal communication that our body is having with itself. So water signs prominent this weekend has been one way to understand. And it's very rare though that we have one element dominating for a long period of time, generally because it's the moon that's going to complete something like that. And then again, Jupiter is only going to be trine Saturn, meaning in the same element, once every few years. So right now though, this week is a very, very, very interesting kind of, I want to say this week is almost like a meeting point of three different narratives, and it's really quite remarkable. And I'm hoping that once I give you these time frames and a little bit more information about it, that you'll be able to pull together the three different narratives, or narrative comprising these three different kind of pieces, that you'll be able to pull it together for yourself. So the narrative that sneaks into the picture this week and has been kind of laying low in the background is cardinal convergence. And I haven't talked about it that much because there have been other things more pressing, like mutable madness and all the fixed sign stuff. So with the cardinal convergence kind of peeking its head in, that is the Venus coming up to the 29th degree of Capricorn, while Mars is coming up to the 29th, degree of Aries. And they are going to square, Venus is going to square Mars just before it changes signs, and just before Mars changes signs. So what you'll see is that Venus and Mars are in cardinal signs, and they'll jump over into the fixed signs pretty much back to back, right? So you can think of this as two different things changing at the same time, almost in sync, but remaining kind of in conflict with each other. So when we have Venus in Capricorn, I talked about this briefly when Venus entered Capricorn, which was in earlier this month, or was it last month? Let's see, Venus, ooh, what color is it? Blue. Okay, Venus entered Capricorn the 24th of February. So Venus in Capricorn answering to Saturn, it's really about control and regulation. And Capricorn is very apt to work with what they have. They're very aware of the limitations that they have in their lives, whether these are limitations that are real or limitations that are perceived. And one of the things that I talk about with Capricorn frequently is that Capricorn, I almost want to say Capricorn is like, no, just tell me no, right? Just tell me what it's going to be so I can anticipate how to regulate my emotional self, my mind, my body, my resources, whatever it may be, as far as what planet is in Capricorn. Capricorn just wants to know. Let Capricorn know, and Capricorn will be all right. But Capricorn struggles when things are in fluctuation or in a state of transition or change, because it's very difficult to anticipate what's going to happen. So that's been the struggle of Venus. And then it's lining up with Mars in Aries. And Mars in Aries is like, what limitations? Who's going to tell me no? Right? Whose chart was I looking at yesterday? Oh, I was watching the show on YouTube where the guy interviews people while they're eating hot wings, and he had Shaq on there, and Shaq was just describing himself and talking about himself, and I was like, man, his Jupiter must be really prominent, because of the way that he was talking about like how he's got his PhD and the limits around what he can do. You know, he was very adamant about not being seen as just a good basketball player, and how he's kind of diversified himself as far as his education, his business interest, and his money and all of that stuff. And sure enough, Shaq has Jupiter in Sagittarius in the 9th house, conjunct his part of fortune, with Aries rising, with Venus and Mars in the ascendant. So all of this to say that Mars and Aries is very much about, I'm doing this because I can. And there was one part in the interview where he was saying that he watches athletes on TV all the time, or watch people doing stuff and be like, man, I could do that, right? He has no sense of limits on himself, saying that, oh, maybe I didn't practice long enough. Maybe I didn't read enough books. Maybe I didn't study long enough. Maybe I'm not strong enough. Maybe I don't know how. Like, this doesn't enter his realm, right? That Aries and Sagittarius is just like, oh, I could do that, right? And some of it's kind of like a self-affirmation, but also like he's Aries rising. So he's going to have a natural physical advantage over other people that makes it easy for him to accomplish certain things. So that's Aries, right? I love giving real life examples about Aries because it doesn't always show up as like the bratty little self-obsessed, you know, selfish person. Sometimes it's just being really strong, or when you're Aries rising with Mars and Aries in the 1st house, is being really tall. Like, shows up that way, especially in a daytime chart. But I can think of someone else I know who has Scorpio rising with Mars in the 1st chart, super duper tall, like 6'5". Jupiter and Mars in the 1st house. Jupiter, especially in a daytime chart, can make someone tall. So anyways, all of that to say that Venus is squaring Mars this week, and this is a taste of cardinal convergence, which was the theme that dominated 2018. 2018 was the cardinal convergence year where we were all like, who's in control? Who sets the narrative? Who controls this? Right? So if we're talking about Capricorn and Aries, which would have kind of been what we were dealing with last May, May 2018, Aries is like really struggling to not be defined by the limits that Capricorn takes for granted, right? Realizing that even though Capricorn wants to solidify that there's a specific way for things to be done based on the resources available, Aries is like, well, I'm the resource, and so there's no limits placed on me. Venus, Mars square are always what you like versus what you want or what you can have, right? Venus is what you desire, what makes you feel loved, and what you just like, right? What your preference is. Also, Venus is the drive to be liked, the drive to be accepted, which we all have. And I know how your faves on Instagram and Twitter are always trying to tell you that you shouldn't care what other people think and that you shouldn't be attached to other people. And it's just like, wow, we really out here like aliens. right? Like non-social creatures that shouldn't like anything, shouldn't have any expectations of anyone, shouldn't hold anyone accountable, shouldn't care about having the positive opinions about of other people. Like, wow, what world is this that they want y'all to live in? All of that to say that that's what Venus represents. Venus represents the drive to be liked and accepted, right? And again, it's a survival strategy to be accepted by the group, because when you're accepted by the group, they're more likely to give you the things that you need in order to survive and let you participate in eating and being a part of the family. But Mars is saying, so are you going to be liked, or are you going to do what you want to do? Are you going to be accepted, or are you going to get what you want? Are you going to be loved, or are you going to do what you want because you can? It's a really tough square because Mars is in its own sign. Actually, Mars, now that I think of it, Mars does receive Venus, so it's not the worst square. It's just that Venus doesn't receive Mars. So I guess this square is really on Mars's terms, right? Because Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So it's kind of like, even though Venus doesn't like to be in Aries, Venus has no choice but to acquiesce to Mars, because Mars has the upper hand in this situation in a roundabout way. So you can think of that being, hey, Sidereal, so you can think of this as being a situation where you have felt the tension of kind of going with the consensus, or trying to create a consensus around how you'll proceed in any particular endeavor, but then realizing that you could do what you want because you can. I can find some personal applications for that. So again, thinking back to 2018 and some of the dominant narratives there, because that cardinal square connects to that. The other thing that's happening, and I'm going to talk about the full moon last. The other thing that's happening is Venus and Mars are both changing sign this week. So when planets are changing signs, that means that the conversation changes, the focus changes, but also the hierarchy in the sky changes. So I've talked about this before when I talk about like how to find the most important or powerful, or the planet with the most authority in your birth chart. And we start by planets in their own sign. So Mars is leaving Aries, which is leaving its own sign. And you can see that despite the fact that Mars hasn't made very many aspects while it's been in Aries, the tail end of this transit has been really disruptive. I believe there was a shooting in the Netherlands today, along with the shooting in New Zealand, and Mars has just really been super messy as the closer we get to this square with Venus. So all of that to say, though, that both Venus and Mars change sign, which means that Mars is no longer kind of in top billing position. Not being in its own sign means that now it becomes subservient to someone else's agenda. And then Venus changes sign. So Venus has been in Capricorn and Saturn sign, and it's going to move to Aquarius, which is also Saturn sign. So that's just kind of a tough situation. I'm trying to think. No planet is going to be happy. Jupiter's not that bad in Scorpio because it trines Pisces and Cancer, where Jupiter has authority. And Mercury is not upset in Aquarius. But all of that to say that when you don't have planets in their own signs at any given point, it's very hard to figure out who's in control, who's the boss, who gets to define the narrative of how things proceed. And there can definitely be kind of conflicting. I'll give you an example of a birth chart. Like if in your birth chart, there's no planet that's in the sign of its exaltation, or no planet that's in the sign of its domicile, like Sun in Leo or whatever, there can often be like a sense that your life has multiple directions, or at any given time, there's like a competition for who has influence or what has influence. But also it could just mean that nobody has pull in your life like that. Like for good or ill, people who have like planets in their own sign, or multiple planets in one sign, or multiple planets under the rulership of one particular sign, that planet that's in control. So say you've got a lot of planets in Pisces and Sagittarius, Jupiter is going to be a really influential planet in your chart, which means that you may have a religious upbringing, which means that religion and spirituality may play a big role in how you make decisions and create hierarchies in your life, Where someone who has a lot of planets in Leo, right, dad is going to be really, really an important and driving figure in that person's life. Or if they have planets in Cancer, it's going to be mom or auntie or grandma. So we're reaching this point this week where there's no clear hierarchy in the sky. So basically, by the 22nd, is that right? Right. By the 22nd, this is where the planets will be. The 22nd is Friday. The sun will be in Pisces. Mercury will be in Aquarius. Venus will be in Aquarius. Mars will be in Taurus. Jupiter will be in Scorpio, and Saturn will be in Sagittarius. So you'll see those two planets meeting up in Aquarius will give Saturn some pull as far as who has their sign occupied by the most planets. It's going to be Saturn, since Venus and Mercury are in Aquarius. So this is just kind of, I don't even know how to say it. It almost feels like a confusing week of change, because some of the energies that have been dominant over the past few weeks shift pretty dramatically. Like Mars leaving Aries for Taurus, that's a really big change, because Mars in Aries says, I do what I can. I do what I do because I can, and who gonna check me, boo? And Mars in Taurus says, I do what I do because people will like me. I do what I do because it makes other people comfortable. It disarms people and makes them let their guard down around me. I do what I do because in order to get what I want, I need to look the part, dress the part, act the part, wear my hair a certain way, talk this way, dress this way. Mars is in the sign of its detriment in Taurus, which happens the 22nd. And anytime we talk about a planet in detriment, we're saying that this planet is stripped of all authority, right? So if Mars in Aries had all the authority, it answered to itself. It did not have to consider the agenda of any other planet before it did what it did. Now Mars in Taurus is saying, actually, your will and autonomy is subjected to some other force or influence in your life. So if in your natal chart you happen to have Mars in Sidereal Taurus, again, this is always sidereal for people who are tuning in who are getting confused on that. Always, you can go to thepeoplesoracle.com and click Sidereal birth chart in order to cast your sidereal birth chart and find out where your planets are. But anytime you have planets in Taurus, it's saying that being liked, understanding the way that your social designations define the way that you should behave, dress, appear, who you should marry, what job you should take, where you should live, right? Anytime we have planets in Taurus, your social designations and being part of a society or community are more important. So for Mars, that means that belonging in community and in relationship and being accepted by others is a means to your autonomy, or more important than your autonomy. That's tough. I'm not really looking forward to that, but maybe I am. I don't know. Anyways, so that is setting us up for a face-off of Mars in Taurus and Jupiter in Scorpio, which I believe is not till April or May. Let's see here. May 5th, Mars opposes Jupiter at 29 degrees. So that's what we're headed for. It's a ways away. But you'll often notice if you go back and view some of my other videos, especially towards the beginning of this year when we had like Venus and Jupiter and Scorpio together, and late last year, you'll hear me talking about Scorpio a lot in reference to or within the context of Taurus. And Taurus and Scorpio talking to us about two different survival means to survival. And if you think about it, every sign helps us to function and survive in some way, shape, or form. But Scorpio and Taurus are a little bit more direct in the sense that, excuse me, Scorpio is the biological survival instinct itself, literally your fight or flight, right? Literally your, is this safe or is this dangerous? And Taurus teaches us that oftentimes it's not flight or flight. Sometimes it's disarm. Sometimes it is assimilate. Sometimes it is conform. And it's really talking to us about the social consequences for our behavior and whether our behavior facilitates acceptance and belonging and meeting our survival needs, or whether our behavior facilitates rejection, ostracizing, and not having your needs met. I think this is, hello, Gummy the Ham. I think that this is easier to see like when you're a kid, and the consequences for behaving in a way that's unacceptable are a little bit more present, meaning that as a child, like being sent to your room and isolated is very traumatic and kind of jarring. Like at certain ages, kids don't really even have the capacity to process their emotions on their own. And so parents hope that the isolation, being sent away, will be enough to say, I don't want to be sent away, so let me choose a behavior that will make me accepted and make me belong and make me conform. Now, as an adult, it's a little bit more complicated because I don't think that we're always aware of the behaviors that we do that ostracize us. And sometimes it starts to feel like just by being who we are, right, that our very essence of being who we are makes us rejected or ostracized in some way. So by being Black, by being queer, by being a woman, by being Muslim, by being Jehovah's Witness, or whatever your religious affiliation is in your particular country or culture, and whether that affiliation is accepted or not. So as we build towards that opposition, which is until May, but again, it's going to be coming up a lot because Mars is already in Taurus. We're going to be thinking about, should I conform and assimilate, or do I preserve my body because there's a real danger here? Is the danger one where I need to run and get away, or is the danger one where I need to conform and assimilate in order to disarm and help people welcome me? Now, not finally, because I didn't even talk about Venus in Aquarius. I'm not about to talk about Venus in Aquarius because I've been talking about Aquarius with, I feel like everything that comes out of my mouth is Aquarius lately, because Mercury has just been doing the most in Aquarius. But again, I always have to say this because I never know who's watching, who has never seen this before. I practice Sidereal astrology. Sidereal astrology is not Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology is a specific spiritual and cultural tradition of astrology that originated in India. And it just so happens that many astrologers in India who also practice Vedic astrology have maintained usage of the sidereal zodiac long after Western traditions of astrology gave it up. Okay? With that being said, when I talk about Aquarius, Western astrologers and modern astrologers have a very specific context within which they like to talk about Aquarius. They like to say Aquarius is humanitarian. They like to say Aquarius is futuristic. They like to say Aquarius is eccentric. And the answer is no, it is not. Aquarius is self-determining, right? Self-determination takes existing language and uses it as a tool to name, frame, and determine the self. Run that back if you missed it. All right, so Venus in Aquarius, wherever Venus is in your birth chart, Venus tells us really what behaviors have you had to adopt in order to be accepted. I just came up with that right now. I love intuition. Intuition just be teaching me from the inside all the time. It's so great. I just came up with that right now. Pretty cool, huh? Wherever Venus is in your chart shows you what kind of behaviors have you had to adopt in order to be liked and accepted as a part of the group. Or it can also tell you how important is it for you to be liked and accepted, right? Not everyone, hey Pamela, not everyone has being liked and accepted on their hierarchy of life goals. If you have planets in Taurus, if you have planets in Libra, yes, you are concerned with the consensus. You are concerned with how you look. You're concerned with how other people make you look, right? Taurus is very much like you make me look good or you make me look bad. In proximity to you, is my social status increased or decreased? I mean, look at Taurus son Donald Trump. Oh my God, that defines how he functions. Like, you can imagine that he only even wanted to be president so that he could have some proximity to Barack Obama. And he could say, me too, right? I'm not trying to boo-boo on y'all Taurus. I'm just saying that that's what it is. I mean, y'all been living y'all life, so y'all know what it is. So anyways, Venus in Aquarius says that I only love you if you let me be who I say I be. Oh man, y'all been following me all this time and watching my videos all this time and still haven't realized that I use the Sidereal Zodiac. Like, y'all still haven't gone to thepeoplesoracle.com and y'all still haven't gone to thepeoplesoracle.com and cast your sidereal birth chart. Like, y'all still haven't downloaded the Introduction to Sidereal Astrology so that y'all can understand that I use the Sidereal Zodiac. It's okay. And I know who you are, Love Seasonings, too. You should be ashamed. Go look at your birth chart, girl. No, people really just forget. And it's like trying to speak in two different languages at the same time. And people really have a hard time letting go of the associations that they have with certain signs. And they have a hard time understanding that the signs change between zodiacs. And they have a hard time understanding that the signs are not interpreted the same way. And they also forget that they have had readings with me where I've read them down using their sidereal birth chart, and then they left confused because their tropical birth chart is what they're used to, even though it obviously doesn't fit. But that's none of my business. I'm supposed to be talking about Venus in Aquarius. Oh God. It's just funny to me, like, I have to remember that, like, my brain is really special to be able to, like, speak in 2 different languages at the same time, or 3 different languages, or 4. And by languages, I mean I can speak in tropical and sidereal, but, like, I'm also a musician, so that's a whole other language. And then I also speak English, and then I can, like, read and pronounce a bunch of other languages. Like, that's a special skill. I keep forgetting that most people's brains don't kind of jump back and forth that way. Anyways, if you have Venus in Aquarius, you are having your Venus return beginning this week. A return is just when the planet, when a planet in your birth chart occupies a certain sign, and the transiting planet in the sky comes back to that same sign. So if you got Venus in Aquarius, you're having your Venus return. But yeah, Venus in Aquarius says self-determination and personal sovereignty is more important than being liked and loved. Meaning that my relationships need to reflect my compulsion, drive, and necessity for me to determine who and what I am. And I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more on another day. What I do want to talk about before I go is the full moon in Virgo, giving us a couple drops of that mutable madness sauce. That means that, I believe this is Thursday. Let me see here. No, this is Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Wednesday is the full moon in Virgo. So me and Reed, hey Reed, we have been talking about how, like, this current phase of mutable madness has been all Pisces and Sagittarius, way too much Jupiter. Then Gemini moon came in last week, and it was just too much. And I was like, you know what's missing, Reed? Reed, do you know what's missing? Virgo is missing. And we were like, duh, Virgo is missing, because I literally said the other day, I was like, referring to a problem or situation in my life. I was like, why can't I just have a logical answer here? Why can't I just add 1 and 1 and 2, and then the problem is solved? And Reed, in her wisdom, because she thinks she's so smart, because she is, was like, well, this is not a logic thing. This is a desire thing and a will thing. And I was like, wow, you deep read, because it's true. It's true. It's a water and a fire thing. Except for this week, the moon is in Virgo. So, oh dang, my eclipse guide is back. Hold on, let me get my sidereal astrology guide, because I want to show you this fill in the blank for the full moon. If you have your sidereal guide near you, pick it up. If you just get it, because hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I got both of them because I realized while I was back there that I wanted to show you this. Okay, where is it? I love making tables. Like, tables and spreadsheets are bae. Look at that. Ooh, I get so excited. Okay, so, right, we've been very purple. We've been very purple, right? Purple here is Sagittarius and Pisces, both ruled by Jupiter. Fire is the will and volition. Water is biology, body, and life. Physical. Listen, this is so important for you to really understand astrology. Water is not feelings, okay? Water is not feelings. The moon is not your feelings, and it's not your emotions. The moon is your actual body. If you say feelings, where are you feeling something, and what exactly are you feeling? Is it words in your head, or is it a sensation in your body? Okay, so anyways, we've been very, very purple, right? Sagittarius here is intend. What do you mean, right? What did you mean when you did that? What did you mean when you said that? What did you mean when you didn't do this? What did you mean when you didn't say that, right? And Pisces, sorry, there we go. Pisces is understand. What do you understand, right? So the square between Pisces and Sagittarius is really saying the dissonance between someone else's intention and another person's capacity to understand, right? So this is why I've been talking so much about lost in translation. I talked about that in another video last week. But lost in translation, this idea that you could say so many different things and choose your words and feel like you're being honest, but you cannot control somebody else's capacity to understand. And you cannot even control the experiences that a person has had that make them interpret what you said in a particular way. That's tough. And it often leaves us feeling isolated and alone and disconnected, because we recognize that no matter how we may shape and form our words, we cannot make another person understand us. That's really tough. But that is why we know that words are not the only way to communicate and to understand, right? Pisces teaches us that knowing is in our body, right? So I've got this other table here, and then I'm gonna go to the 2019 Sidereal Astrology Guide. But I'm bringing up this Eclipse guide because I know some of you may not have known specifically how to use that. But like, for example, we've been in this Pisces time, and so all of the questions that I have here about empathy, right? These questions here about empathy are really important. So when I was just, let me just read this to you because it's a direct correlation to what I was just saying. Empathy is when there is accord between what is intended right? So that's one person's will, okay? And what is understood, right? That's another person's receiving of what they heard or the action of the other person. It is the empathy is the capacity to understand what another intends despite the speaker's ability to articulate and the listener's capacity to hear. Now, this is really important because Virgo is to hear and Gemini is to speak or articulate, right? So if we're talking about these Jupiter signs down here and we're talking about empathy, right, which is the cross section of these two Jupiter things, we're saying that empathy is the capacity to understand what another intends despite the speaker's ability to articulate, right? And the listener's capacity of hearing, right? This is why there's a square, okay? Words are only a small portion of how we communicate. Body language, tone, and other intangible factors communicate our intentions likely louder and stronger than our words, right? So I have a bunch of questions here. If you do not have this Eclipse guide, let me just show you the cover. You can go to thepeoplesoracle.com and click shop, and you can actually download the 2019 Eclipse guide. I actually do have a few more copies of this back in Chicago. So if you want a printed and bound version of this, I do have a few more, and you can buy it from me and I will send it to you. So now to this full moon. I love this so much, y'all. Y'all have no idea. I've already been thinking about just minor updates I want to make till next year's for 2020's. Yes. Anyways, let me get to this fill in the blank for this. This is so like important. So back to what I was saying before. I'm in New Orleans now. You gonna come see me? I know you hear 504 Love Seasonings. But I'll be back in May. And probably in July too. So full moon in Virgo. Remembering how to calculate processes and outcomes. No, that's not what it says. Remembering how to, I'm reading backwards, y'all. Calculate processes and solve problems, right, in your Virgo house, whoever that is, as I focus on experiencing meaning beyond the personal. So we've been missing Virgo, right? We've gotten a taste of Gemini with the moon in Gemini last week. What was that, Thursday? Let me see. That was last week, Thursday, right? Sun entered Pisces while moon entered Gemini. So we had like this big mutable, last week was so much. So this week we get some Virgo, and Virgo has been missing. And there has been a lot of conversations that many of us have been having. There have been a lot of attempts to communicate and be understood, or there has been a lot of people trying to get us to understand them, and they've been using their words, right? But we haven't had any Virgo. So the Gemini is like, use your words. And Pisces is like, yeah, I hear your words, but I don't know. Your words don't really, your words aren't really saying what you really mean. And so we've been left to try to figure out what people mean, what are their intentions, without necessarily having the words to really understand them. And we've been really struggling because their words and their actions don't really line up. And this is what I mean by like communication is more than I said these things to you, right? Communication is I said these things to you and my actions followed, right? So this week, Virgo, moon in Virgo. Virgo is, where's mine? Where is it? Virgo is here, is Earth. What does that say? Object, tangible, evidential. Hear. What did you hear? right? So yes, Reed, excuse me, tangible evidence. So Virgo is the sign of intelligibility, which really means like you said words and I was able to comprehend the words that you used, right? But when we have planets on the Virgo Pisces axis, and I'm thinking of a few clients right now who have planets on the Virgo Pisces axis, and there's a real mind-body split here of, can I trust my body? Is what I'm perceiving with my mind and the words I'm hearing in my ear, why is it so incongruent with what I'm feeling in my body, right? And this is what we call discernment. Discernment is the capacity to find the middle ground between words that are used and what you feel in your body, right? Your body is having all kinds of primal responses and reactions to things that don't have anything to do with what people said. And so the question is, are the feelings that you're having in your body in response to what's being said and happening now? Or are the feelings that you're having in your body in response to a story that you've been telling yourself or that you've believed about the way your world and life works, right? Again, whenever we get information or hear something or have a conversation, it is always interpreted against a story. The story that you tell yourself about who this person is in front of you. You've got a narrative in your mind. You have a cohesive set of experiences that comprise, this is this person in my life, or this is this place, or this is me, or this is how this particular thing in my life works. And so when new information comes along, Mercury, Gemini, Virgo, you take that information and then you measure it subconsciously or not, because the nature of memory is story, is narrative. So you're constantly measuring it against. So this full moon in Virgo is asking us questions about, now exactly what story is this? Now, what did they say? Right? Discernment is that whole process of understanding that you cannot take things at face value, right? Or that sometimes you do need to take things at face value and stop looking so deep. God dog it. It ain't that deep sometimes, but sometimes it is. I don't know. I don't have the answers, but what I do know is that this full moon is giving us a taste of, let me show you, baby, as they say down here. Everybody says baby. Hey, baby. Okay. This is September. Venus in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo, Sun in Virgo, Mars in Virgo, new moon in Virgo. Oh my God. All right. Come September into October, the planets are lining up for our third stellium of the year in Virgo. So the full moon this week, which is on, is it Wednesday or Thursday? I keep forgetting. It is on Wednesday. The full moon on Wednesday is giving us a taste of September, right? So this is why we have the 2019 Sidereal Astrology Guide, because you can write down in your little fill in the blank page here, right? You can write down what's happening under the full moon in Virgo. So Virgo is my second house. That means I'm about to get this shmoney. It might be you gotta spend some shmoney. I don't know. Mercury is retrograde right now, so if Mercury rules your second house, I would just chill for a minute. You could though. You could. I'm not gonna lie, you could. Anyways, that's all I have to say to y'all. And I'll be back maybe tomorrow. I don't know if I'll be back Wednesday because I'm gonna be flying out of here on Wednesday. So maybe I'll be back Thursday or Friday, but I'll definitely try to get on tomorrow and talk to y'all about whatever else is going on. I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to this full moon in Virgo, and I'm kind of not. Virgo transits are generally very, very good for me, so I'm not going to be a hater. I'm going to be a congratulator to myself, and really just not get all worked up. I need some Virgo. We all need some Virgo. we all need just a moment of at least trying to take things at face value and not having to look so deep. Like, why can't people just say and do what they mean? That's really what Virgo wants. Virgo just is like, look, you said these words, you did this thing, they should be together. Meanwhile, Pisces is like, but I don't know how to use my words. Words just, they're hard. And Virgo is just like, it's not. 1 + 1 is 2 every time. Why are you making this so difficult, Pisces? Right? And Pisces is like, no, 1 + 1 isn't 2, it's 3, and I can't even explain to you why. Why is it 3? The drama. All right, y'all. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube. Remember, when I get back to Chicago, I've been meaning to do this, but life has just been lifing. When I get back to Chicago, I'm gonna be doing some Google Hangouts so we can like work in our guides together. So you should get yours. They'll be free, right? But you just have to have the guide because you can't do it if you don't have the guide. So go to thepeoplesoracle.com and click shop, and you can download digital versions of these. I do have some printed and bound versions of the 2019 Sidereal Astrology Guide in my store. You can download this one, and I do have a handful of printed and bound copies that look just like this. So if you want one, just let me know, and I'm not gonna put it in the store. Just hit me up. Oracle at datalink.com or the People's Oracle on Twitter or Instagram. All right, y'all have a happy Monday. The moon is now in, is it in Leo yet? Yes, the moon is in Leo. Good riddance to that old wet, watery, emo Cancer moon. Enough of that trash. Yeah, moon in Leo. Let's see how it goes. Last time moon was in Leo was a full moon, and Mercury was entering its retrograde shadow. So hopefully this one is nicer to you all. Bye.